Welcome to Moto Head Garage. I'm TJ Smith.
And I'm Doc Smith. Riding the Moto B1 today. Gonna take her out for a few laps, tell you a little bit about what I know about this thing, where I think it excels, where I think it could be better over time. Man, this thing's fast. This thing's really punching above its weight class in speed comparative to, we have a Talaria that has a little bit of modding to it, and this thing is really close to that. And when you compare size to that, this thing is way faster size to power ways. I am having a blast on this thing. This thing could not be really much more fun. I think it definitely excels, of course, like I've said, in the power and just overall. I've talked to my father about it. He said build quality on this thing's pretty solid. Pretty solid, especially this is a build kit, so it comes with the motor. It does not come with a battery. I don't know if it comes with a controller or not, but we'll see that either later, or you've already seen this in the video. But all I know is I'm having an absolute blast in this thing.
But first, you got to put it together. And that's where all this is. So we've jumped back in time a little bit to show you exactly what you get when you order it and what it takes to build the bike that we are riding. Obviously, the big box down there is the bike, but we'll get to that. What we'll start with is a battery that comes directly from Moto, and it comes well packed too. So we'll get in here. Let's get this battery out real quick and let's take a look and see exactly what do you get with their battery and how it's made. And here's what you get. You get the battery, which is quite a powerful battery, 70 volts, 30 amp hours. So it's going to be a lot of battery for this little bike. The charger comes with this plug on it, 84 volt, 5 amp hour charger. And then it gives you all the different plugs you're going to need to hook this up to the battery. These will be our charge port. This battery, and one of the greatest things is you get to peel it. You get to, oh yeah, and nice stainless steel case to protect the battery. So let's see what is in the next box. It's time for the stereotypical unboxing. So let's get this thing open and see exactly what you get. Okay, we got to cut this box apart. I was hoping to save it, but I don't think it's going to happen. All right, looking at the crate here, it's not just a cardboard holding it together. They actually went the extra mile, just like a Honda or Yamaha, something that would be. They have built a full-on frame around this. No wonder this thing is box held up so good in shipping. I don't see how this could be damaged in shipping. So time to get some tools so we can pull this apart. All right. And with the magic of editing, I'm going to have tools in my hand. Should have marked. And it looks like you're going to need 14s and 10s. Not seen one of these crates put together with 14 millimeter nuts. So they went a little bit overboard on that, which in shipping, that's not a bad thing. So let's see if we can get this unbolted. And here's all the parts out of the box. You got most of the foam, all the packing wrapping off of everything. So we'll start getting this thing bolted together. It gets very detailed instructions. I like this, and they even have an added sheet for the fork installation to help you guide you in that. I mean, use your instructions. I don't know if I am, but I just want to learn. But I'll probably use the instruction on this one because this is a way more of a kit. It also comes with all the tools. So I like that. I mean, they're not the best tools. They're like, I don't even know what you call this, poured steel. They're not the best tools in the world, but it does come with what looks like everything you need to put this on. an extra chain, which I thought was interesting. There's a chain on the bike, and it is mounted, but an extra chain. So we're going to follow the instructions. We're going to get this put on. The fork leg with the brake is going to go, if you're sitting on the bike, it'll go on your left-hand side of the bike. And the opposite fork leg on the opposite side. Most always want to make sure your cables are routed inside there, except for your front brake cable will go outside of the fork. Now let's get this front wheel on. It says in the instructions that there's 2 spacers. The shorter one says to go to the side of the brakes. So how I like to do this is put your axle in, get that shorter one started, feed your front wheel in. Once it pokes out here, put it on, line it up, and let's get it pushed through. As you saw us riding it, him crashing it, and it held up to that. So, yeah, the Moto B1 is, I mean, B1 needs to be like B1000, right?
Yeah, it's fast.
It's so fast.
It's really fast.
It's absurdly fast. This is the best way I could word it. I was not expecting that. We have an e-box. I definitely want to put it up against the e-box, so stay tuned and see the next video of this up against a modified e-box. But I was pleasantly surprised with the power, right?
Yeah. Oh, when I first got on it, I rode it before you did, and I came back and was immediately like, this thing's fast.
Yeah. I was talking to the owner who sent me this bike. I did not buy this bike, so but I told him straight up, like I always do, I'm gonna give an honest review. And I was putting this together, and he had told me, not to get my hopes up, that this is not a real dirt bike, for putting it that way. And so as I'm putting it together, seeing some of the stuff, I'm like, this is just gonna be another e-box. And and as I put it together, I'm like, it'll be fine. It'll be fun. We'll make a little video, come do this. And I told Doc, go ride. I wasn't even excited about riding it. And so I sent Doc out on it. And I just thought, we'll just go out and ride it. And he come back. And what was your first thoughts when you saw the bike and stuff like that?
When I saw the bike, I was kind of in the same boat. I was thinking it's going to probably be another e-box. It looks a little bit better. It has more of like a race styling to it, more like a real dirt bike styling. I'm pretty sure it's the same kind of styling as like a Husqvarna.
It looks like
almost
Husky.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, at least they're putting a little bit more moto styling into it.
Yeah.
It has a normal motocross style swing arm.
But for the price, we're talking about, just so you know, the bike, not with the battery, but the bike with that motor, which motor is aggressive.
Yes.
That's awesome motor. It's $800, or like $900. It's the price is right here. This is the price. It's like $800 or $900. I forgot because we just got off the bike. So it's it's like $900.
Yeah, for the price, it's definitely it's really, really good.
It's really good.
But I think there's some upgrades you could do to this thing that can make it a replacement for pretty much any other pit bike.
Any pit bike. It's faster than a 110.
It's faster than a 110. Probably faster than like a KLX 140.
Yeah. So
maybe not top end, but that's gearing.
Yeah, and so this has Moto's battery in it, as you saw in the build. Obviously, y'all saw me build that, and a FarDriver controller, which did fit relatively neatly underneath this cover. So everything's there, and even after us just getting off of it, nothing's hot. We rode it pretty good. Nothing seems to be hot. We did comment about don't know how the airflow will be as far as keeping everything cool because of this cover, but I mean, you rode it pretty hard.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all can see it from that side. I don't know if you've gotten any photos of it or videos of it, but there are airflow vents.
I didn't get video, but yeah, there are some intake vents.
There are some intake vents, so it's not like it's completely covered off.
And the bottom is kind of opened up to get air into.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's noisy.
Very noisy, but I think that's mostly the chain loosened a lot when we rode it. It's our first time riding it.
Yeah.
So the chain definitely did stretch a little bit, which is normal.
You didn't know this, but it did come with an extra chain.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. So I mean, I don't know if they're saying that chain is not the best chain, but it's like it's not a bicycle chain. It's more of like an industrial chain. It's a little bit beefier than a bicycle. It's a lot beefier than a bicycle chain, but not a full like 420 chain. But the noisiness, I think a lot of it was this mud flap.
Yeah, it definitely did. I even just stepping back and seeing it, I could see that it was being a little noisy. Other than that, I mean, the brakes are pretty solid. They're hydraulic brakes.
Motorcycle style brakes, not
Motorcycle
just,
style, yes.
not BMX or mountain bike
No,
brakes.
they are motorcycle brakes.
Single piston in the front, dual piston. I mean, dual piston in the front, single piston in the rear.
And surprisingly, I felt like the rear may have worked better.
Yeah, maybe.
But we don't have that much time on it yet. The brakes still could be bedding in.
Mm-hmm.
But at a very minimum, the rear brake did bed in quicker.
It did.
Yeah, only really downside is it has a very small rider triangle.
The cockpit.
For a shorter person, this bike would be great.
You're like 6 foot. I'm like 6'8", right? Isn't that how it works?
More
I mean,
like,
you can see, like we set the
5'9",
camera up to
5'8".
make it look like he's taller than me, just to make him feel better.
Yeah.
That's what we did. No, you're like 6 foot. I'm like 5'8", 5'9", depending on how I feel that day. My back's hurting, you know.
Oh yeah, so you're like 5'6" right now.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not too bad. The bars are a big thing. I will say that the foot pegs are a little forward, but the size of the foot peg is not so bad.
It makes up for it significantly.
On the e-box, we had the foot pegs were way up and high, and we had to build a bracket to drop them back. I didn't feel like riding it that it was like I had to.
I don't think we like with this bike. You really should.
You like the balance
on the e-box. They were really forward. Like you could tell, it wasn't even like center mass on the bike. Where these are very where they should be on a bike of this size. Yeah. I think the way that you're going to make a larger rider triangle for this bike is just handlebars. And just like moving everything forward a little.
Tall bars.
Yeah, a set of tall bars would change the entire feel of this bike and make it significantly better.
And these bars are gonna bend. They're 100%. They're like a 100%. Metal tube bar with no crossbar. You're gonna bend those bars. So if you're building one of these, when you order this, you can order. I would I mean, this setup is amazing.
Oh, it's super.
Whatever controller you want to put with it, buy their battery, buy this bike. If this is what you want. When you do this, I can't remember, but you're about $2,000 into this, I think, when it's all said and done.
Really?
Like a little less. Yeah. But depending on what controller you use.
But that's cheaper than any gas-powered pit bike.
It's less than half the price of a Talaria or a Sur-Ron.
Yeah.
And its power is up there. Like
it's
a stock Sur-Ron.
It's probably really close to stock Sur-Ron, stock Talaria.
It probably. You're going to see in the next video this up against the e-box. And I'll have the Talaria with me also.
I actually think that the e-box modded like it is, it gets up and goes too. So
it's going to be interesting.
It'll be very interesting and very. I think it'll actually be pretty close.
They sent also a tall seat, and I haven't got that mounted on here yet. And I may swipe a set of tall bars off of my KLX to put on here just for this next video to try to make it somewhat even, because it makes a huge difference with the tall bars. Like a huge difference.
It makes a bike going from being like I can ride it around and get places to I'm having a lot of fun and I would keep this thing for a significant amount of time.
I think the forks are okay. I didn't have any problem. They're pit bike forks. Like they're as good as
they're gonna get.
Well, and also I think they're as good as a KLX or 110 forks. They're oil. They're fine.
They're just
The shock definitely needs more dampening, not damping, not like it's wet, but dampen control. Yeah. It has a rebound adjustment here that
did not work. we turned it all the way in. We tried.
It was not enough.
Slow
we'll say that
the
for sure.
Rebound down as much as possible, and it did not want to slow down.
Yeah. Controller, just jumping here and some of the notes that he had sent me. It's a FarDriver from Gary Johnson. The controller is an FD72300. The battery is rated for 100 amps, but the tune is at 70. He definitely wanted me to point out that just because it's rated for that doesn't mean the BMS is okay with that. It can handle that, but not for very long. So a lot of guys will program these to run 100 amps. And oh God, I can't imagine. This is programmed to 70 because it won't cut out and won't hurt the battery. That 100 amps is pushing like that's the max, and that's one of the things that they're doing is they're telling you, hey, this is the max. If you go over that, if you go to this, you're going to hurt stuff. So this one's programmed at 70. And it said it should do about 45, and I believe it because yeah, this thing will do 45 miles an hour,
Yeah, it
no
will.
problem, no problem.
We'll probably end up doing something with that later.
Yeah, you definitely you won't have to buy bigger foot pegs. These foot pegs seem to have pretty decent grip.
Oh,
They're
very
not
good grip.
sharp, but so they won't tear up tennis shoes. But they're big, wide foot pegs. We'll get you some
A
close-ups,
really
insert
good
close-ups.
platform to hold onto the bike. That's for
Yes,
sure.
very good, very good. And also he was talking about they set the tune like I say was 70 amps. Um, I'm impressed.
I am too.
I'm kind of speechless. I was not expecting this. I don't want to give it back now.
We've had this thing for a couple weeks now
In a box because
we just haven't been able to get to it, unfortunately. But now that we got to it, I wish we had gotten to it a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
It's really fun. I can see myself riding it again probably later today.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
Like this is what pit bikes are. This is not going. This is what pit bikes are built for, to have fun. I don't think that this is a little kid's bike.
This is not going to replace a race bike either of any kind for even smaller kids and stuff like that.
No.
This won't replace that kind of stuff, but man, it is fun. It's not a little kid's bike.
No, and it's got plenty of power to ride wheelies for as long as you want to. I guess our final thoughts. What are your final thoughts for the Moto B1 DIY kit?
I think it's great. You're the one that put it together. I didn't have to touch it. So
you love that part.
Yeah, I mean, you're the tinkerer, so you were able to have almost as much fun as anything on the bike as it sits now. So
my thoughts are it's probably one of the most affordable bikes with this much power and potential that if you had 3 or 4 buddies and you all bought these, this would be some of the most fun backyard riding ever, hitting, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Like literally, like I don't think it could replace my Talaria, but it could replace a gas pit bike. And if I had multiple buddies with it, I could see me not needing the Talaria if everybody had these. Yeah. I'm impressed. I didn't get any of the crazy flex of the swing arm. None of the issues that I've had with some of the other small Chinese.
Oh yeah, no, there
bikes.
was no. It didn't feel rigid,
so solid,
but it didn't feel like it was flexing unnecessarily anywhere.
From the moment I unboxed it till after my first time riding it, it was just an upward trend. I'm sure things are going to break on pit bikes because you crash them, because you ride them hard, because you do stuff. We haven't seen that.
I mean, in the first 10 minutes I rode it, I crashed it.
Yeah, he crashed it after the first 10 minutes. So it's
just part of it.
It's part of it. But yeah. So we'll put a link in the description. I really want to thank Moto for sending me this out. I'm sorry it took us a couple of weeks to get to it. It's just life happens that way. But I'm impressed. The bike just seems to be way more value than what you would imagine.
It's definitely, I feel like, the most value out of the market right now that I have seen or even searched for at all. I don't think there's anything that's going to give you this much power and comfortability because it's not flexing in weird spots.
So I guess the next thing we need to do, since you did it with the Talaria, is take this on a supercross track?
No.